Livebearers are one of the easiest beginner fish out there because they're cheap, colorful, easy to feed, easy to breed, but which one should you choose? Find out why platies are one of my favorite livebearers that you gotta try. Hi, my name is Irene with girltalksfish, here wearing one of my official pieces of merch. Yay! And the reason why I love platies is because, well, I feel like full-size mollies and swordtails get a little too big and aggressive in my aquarium sizes, at least. And then guppies and endlers are smaller, but sometimes the females are really dull looking versus platies, smaller, and both the females and males are equally colorful. I think for full-size platies, like the regular type, they're about 2.5 to 3 inches, versus right here I have dwarf red coral platies, and they only get to about 1 inch to 1.5 inches. If you didn't know, there are actually 2 species that are considered platyfish. There's the southern platyfish and then the variatus platy. But honestly, the fish that you buy at the aquarium store, they're all pretty much hybridized with each other. So if you look at, websites online, you'll see common varieties are types like Mickey Mouse, red wag, twin bar, hyphen, a lot of warm colors going on here, but I've definitely seen some metallic and baby blues, as well as green lantern. Really cheap fish, only $2 to $3, maybe up to $5 for some of the rare varieties. One of the reasons why they're such a popular beginner fish is because they are accepting of a wide range of water parameters for the most part. So let me get into that. As for temperatures, typical tropical temperatures, they actually can go pretty low. So these, I would say maybe like 72 to 82 degrees Fahrenheit. But if you're looking at like the variatus platy, they can go all the way down to 64, 65 degrees Fahrenheit. So depending on how warm or cold your house is, you could keep them in an unheated aquarium or even put them outside during the summer for outdoor pond season. pH, they can go to 7.0 or higher, doesn't really matter as much as GH, or general hardness, which measures how much mineral content you have in your aquarium. So these are actually none of the original platies that I purchased from the fish store. Those platies, I got the adults and they were unfortunately raised in brackish water from the fish farms. It's a common practice that a lot of these overseas fish farms, fresh drinking water is pretty expensive, so they'll mix it with ocean water. Well, when those fish come and land in my aquarium that has very soft tap water, about 3 degrees GH, yeah, they start dropping like flies. So what I did was I dumped a ton of Chem equilibrium so that it raised the GH to about 20 to 30 degrees. And they started doing great. They had babies. I rescued 2 batches, about 60 in all, fry, and then I just put them in a normal freshwater aquarium and raised them up that way. So nowadays, in this particular aquarium, I still use Chem equilibrium, and I raise it to about 8 degrees GH, which makes them pretty happy, as well as the plants in this tank. In terms of food and diet, they are not picky. They'll eat anything. They're omnivores. You can see they're swimming at all levels of the tank, so it really doesn't matter. You can feed them floating foods, sinking foods, little foods, big foods. They will pick at giant wafers, frozen foods, Rapashi gel food. Honestly, because they're such great scavengers, I never see any excess food along the ground. Really, you're at risk of having more of a problem of overfeeding them, especially this dwarf variety. They already come with a more rounded belly, and so it's kind of hard to tell if they're getting obese. What I look for is kind of long strings of normal colored waste or poop hanging off of them. If I see that, I know that I've probably been feeding them a little too much in recent meals, and I kind of need to back up on the portion size, or maybe do a couple days of fasting. They're also excellent algae eaters. I mentioned in my previous video that this tank is balanced, but it's a lot in part to the platies. They will pick off any little piece of algae that is in the aquarium as soon as it starts butting its little head, giving me more time to kind of adjust the lighting and nutrients as needed. One caveat I will mention though is because they are such fast eaters, it's easy for them to outcompete the other fish in this tank. So I've kind of learned to do a few techniques to make sure they don't hog up all the food. So one thing is I will drop several piles or chunks of food throughout the entire aquarium so that they can't reach all of them at the same time. I will also try to do like smaller foods, like micro pellets, so that spreads everywhere. And again, everybody gets a chance to take a few bites. And then finally, I will sometimes try to trick them. So maybe I'll feed some floating flakes in this corner and then dump a bunch of sinking foods in that corner. Hopefully they'll be distracted and the other fish will get a chance to eat. As for tank mates, it's pretty easy. Any similarly sized, community, peaceful fish that they won't eat. So in this particular aquarium, I've got the dwarf chain loaches, hill stream loaches, autocinkless. You can see this giant Amano shrimp over here. They definitely don't bother shrimp, at least platies of this size. And they probably wouldn't bother adult cherry shrimp, but they would definitely go after the babies. So if you want to raise them, you might have to either put them in a different tank for maximum breeding or just provide lots and lots of cover and see what survives. Speaking of babies, let's talk about breeding. I know with Livebearers, a lot of people say, just add water and then you'll get offspring. So you can easily sex the Platies by looking at the male. They have kind of this pointy anal fin that's called a gonopodium, versus for the females, it's a fan shape. So as long as they're old enough, you can tell which one you have. I like to do a ratio of 1 male to every 2 to 3 females because, I mean, they're not aggressive, but the males do like to, as you can see, chase the females around. And so if you have more females, it gives them a little bit of a break. And sometimes the males will chase each other around as well because they want to save all the girls for themselves. That's another reason to provide lots of cover and plants so that the females have somewhere to escape to get a break, as well as providing cover for the fry so there's a higher survival rate. Females give birth about every 4 weeks with an average batch of 25 to 50 fry at a time. Now, if you're trying to breed for profit and really crank these things out, you're gonna want to either remove the fry or remove the adults, or you can even put the fry in, let's say, a breeding basket so they're in the same tank, but you want to separate them or else provide a lot of cover. And what I mean by that is, you know, for me, I don't care about raising more babies right now, so this is what I would call a maybe moderately planted aquarium. And Mio, who turned out to be female, if you watched my story about her previously, so nowadays I call her Mama Mio because she's probably given birth about 4 times now, and as you can see, not a single fry has survived. So if I really wanted to have more babies, I would probably put a lot more floating plants, maybe get a big chunk of Java moss, something really thick and dense that the adults can't get into. So if you remember the dwarf platy fry that I raised up in freshwater, I ended up around like 2.5 to 3 months old. They were about 2/3 the size of a regular adult. So at that point, I decided to separate out 8 of them to keep in my main display tank, and then the rest of them went to Exotic Aquatics in Boulder, where the store manager is Priscilla MK Art. If you like colorful Livebearers that don't get too big and are great algae eaters, definitely gotta try out Platies. Or you could take a look at my other video over here on balloon mollies. Take time to enjoy your aquariums, and I'll see you in the next video. Yay, milk tea time!